Are the one seeds in trouble when it comes to the FFPC playoff challenge ownership? What do you do with the Jacksonville Jaguars, the Los Angeles Rams, and more? And what is the secret and the keys to winning $500,000 in this year's FFPC playoff challenge? We've got a great show for you tonight. The fifth place finisher in the world famous playoff challenge last year, Steve Yerger, is going to join us to break down how he did so well last year, how he's going to carry that over to this year, and his plans to win that $500K in the world famous FFPC playoff challenge. Ferrell, Elliott is here. I'm Eric Balkman. Stick around. Your high stakes fantasy football hour starts now.
Can't stand the pressure. I've seen greater men than me, the lesson.
Broadcast live and heard around the world, you are now watching the most entertaining hour of radio on the planet. Welcome to the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by myffpc.com with your hosts Eric Balkman and Ferrell, Elliott. The High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour is your home for analysis from the best players in the world. And now, because no one else was available, here are Eric Balkman and Ferrell, Elliott.
Solace in the scripture. Are we not all our father's sons? I became a man, nobody ever told me what a man was.
Hi, hello, and welcome to all of you Balkaholics and Ferrelliacs. Welcome into the latest episode of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour. My name is Eric Balkman. I'm your host. You know me from the RotoViz High Stakes Lowdown, the FFPC Insider Access Show on the Better Sports Network, and of course the Fantasy Football Players Championship, which also happens to be the sponsor of this show at myffpc.com. My co-host is the definitive commissioner of fantasy football, one Ferrell Elliott. Coming up on tonight's show, we're going to break down as much as we can in 1 hour the targets, the fades, the plays, the non-plays, the faded, the targets, the fadeds and the targeted, I should say, the teams that are going to be going far in the playoff challenge, the teams that will be one and done in the playoff challenge. It's all about trying to get that $500,000 in your wallet with tonight's show this evening, I should say. And we'll pick the brain of Ferrell Elliott. We'll also pick the brain of one Steve Yerger, who won the, I shouldn't say won, I cashed just under $20,000 for fifth place in last year's playoff challenge. Also the IDP expert for Fantasy Football Mastermind. And if that sounds familiar, that's Michael Nazarick's site. Michael Nazarick, an annual guest on this show, one of our favorites. So we'll get to pick the brain of a real live IDP analyst on tonight's show. If you want to connect with us on X, you can do so at hsffhour, at Eric Balkman. Always check out the Kentucky Fantasy Football State Championship over at KFFSC.com. Facebook.com/HSFF is where to reach us. You can also email the show at highstakesfantasyfootball@gmail.com. If you have any questions for us, now is the time to send them in. We'll try to get to all the chat room questions, X posts, and emails in the fantasy feedback segment coming up later on in the show. Thanks to our audio engineer and my best friend Bryce and our producer and mutual friend Rob. As I said at the top, the FFPC playoff challenge is live and it's spectacular. myffpc.com is where to go for this. There is one last shot for you to win a $500,000 grand prize. And it just comes at a $200 entry fee. Really simple to do. The lineups are super easy to put together. There's no draft with this. You don't have to wait for a bunch of other owners. There's no salary cap. You don't have to get your brain out and have working with math. No. There's no convoluted rules. You're just picking players. You pick any players you want. The only stipulation, you can't have more than one player per NFL team. So if you want George Kittle, you can't have Christian McCaffrey. If you want Trevor Lawrence, you can't have Travis Etienne. That's the slant. It's so much fun. Quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 receivers, a tight end, a kicker, a defense, and 4 flexes. So it is a 12-team lineup. Like I said, you can enter for $200 and win $500,000, or you can enter for $35 and still be eligible for $100,000. Only one player per NFL team. That's myffpc.com. Myffpc.com is where to go for that. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we have a fantastic show for you tonight. I'm saying we're having some technical difficulties getting the co-host with the most, the definitive commissioner of fantasy football, onto the stream right now. I'll keep working on that, as will Rob and Bryce. In the meantime, I think it's important to talk about some of the players that are going to affect your playoff challenge lineups this week. will kick things off in Los Angeles, and they're going to be actually traveling all the way across the country to take on New England. And who do I want to talk about with the Chargers? It's none other than Omarion Hampton, the rookie running back. Spent a stint on IR this season, but he's come back. Now the problem is he's dealing with an ankle injury, and as of this afternoon, he is listed as questionable for the wild card game against the Patriots. Limited participant in practice today, but he says he plans on playing. And it sounds like whatever he's dealing with, how serious this ankle injury is, he's going to be playing through it on Sunday. 81% of the snaps were handled by Hampton in Week 17. That was the last game when he was fully healthy. Now, I would imagine that Kamani Vidal is probably going to be playing a role in the game on Sunday. It's not just going to be all Omarion Hampton. And I will say that when it comes to your playoff challenge lineups, you have to remember that this game is Sunday night on the playoff challenge locks on Saturday. I'm sorry. The playoff challenge locks on Saturday. So you're not going to know officially whether Hampton is going to be active or not. Now, this could represent a buying opportunity for you as well, because he's probably going to be a lot more under-owned than what he was at before the ankle injury. I'm still staying away. I think you have to look at the Chargers as a team that, well, and I'll say this, some of the players I've talked to over the last couple of days, they seem to think that the Patriots might be ripe for an upset here. And I was talking with Howard Bender about this on SiriusXM just a couple hours ago. And I said, look, the Patriots had a soft schedule this year. Not a lot of playoff experience on this team. Maybe they're a year early on this. And they're taking on a Chargers team that tried to rest as many players as they could last week. So there is something to be said for that. I don't think it's a slam dunk that the Chargers lose this game against New England. And our friends in the desert would tell you that the Chargers are only a 3.5-point underdog. So they could very easily win this game. I've blabbed about Omarion Hampton enough. Let's talk about Omarion Hampton with one Ferrell Elliott, the KFFSC commissioner, as I bring him in right now. Ferrell, good evening, sir. How does this,
you, buddy?
I
bet you Howard damn Bender's computer didn't freeze up on him tonight. I'm glad to be with you, my friend. It's so good to see you.
Happy playoff eve, man. I think that the postseason this year in the NFL, listen, you've seen more postseasons than I have, but I would say, at least in recent memory, I don't really have a good feel on how these games are going to go, which is scary, but it's also very exciting.
Okay, who do you want to win besides your Packers?
I was just going to say, yeah. I think it would be cool to see Jacksonville win it all with Liam Cohen in his first year. I think that'd be interesting. I think that over in the NFC, if Green Bay can't do it, I'm not a Nick Sirianni guy, and I'm contractually obligated to root against the Bears, so I can't like them at all. I don't know if there's a team I like out of I guess it'd be kind of cool to see Sam Darnold get to the Super Bowl. So I guess Seattle, Jacksonville. If I had to pick two teams and I couldn't pick the Packers, that's probably who I'd take.
Okay, but you specifically wanted to talk about Hampton.
Well, what do you do with him, Ferrell? Because he's a valuable part of that offense, right? But we don't know officially if he's going to be active until well after these lineups lock for the challenge, which could be an opportunity to pick up a player that's going to be under-owned if you choose Hampton as your Charger.
Yeah, and you've got a little bit of a situation there that you've got to get past this first game, and that's their test. It's hard to really understand how they can do it for me. I just don't. Yeah. Now everyone wants to point to the Pats schedule, and everyone wants to talk about how they haven't played anybody. Well, you can only play the teams that you got on the schedule,
right?
And they've got quarterback skills, and when you get in New England that seem to be developing better every game, then you go to your Chargers, and the fact that they're without much offensive line play not only affects the quarterback, but it affects Hampton too. I might just move. I just might move on from this.
The thing with the Chargers is there are some other players I like on this team. I think
Yes.
McConkey's a nice pivot. I could see Gadsden, obviously tight end premium with the FFPC. I could see him working there. I like Dicker, but I do think he's going to be owned in so many of these formats. So you're in danger of getting duped if you have Dicker on there.
You want to? Is that what you want? A one and done kicker.
Well, I mean, I know Nelson Sousa was talking about utilizing Kaimi Fairbairn as a weapon for the Texans, like where he was excited to use him for multiple weeks because he's been so good. So I don't think it's always a fade. Now, I always bring up, I think it was Jason Book who won this challenge back when the Seahawks and Broncos played. The Seahawks defense ended up winning him the 100K because they you had double points in the Super Bowl, and you had a case where he was the only one with the Seahawks defense, so that actually won him the six-figure grand.
Yeah, and that's why guys play multiple teams. But I tell you one thing, Balky, I don't think in this year that a defense is going to be responsible for winning this thing.
Yeah,
it's just there's But so the Hampton thing I think is a no-brainer. Let's just push him to the side.
All right.
But I tell you what, you're inviting. If you pivot to McConkey, you're inviting disappointment. I think. I don't know who you play on this Chargers team.
Well, you could just fade him then. You could just fade him entirely. That's the other possibility as well. Let's talk about San Francisco here, Ferrell, because everybody. It seems like everybody I've talked to is very excited to play Christian McCaffrey. He's probably going to be the highest owned player in this competition, if not the highest owned, definitely top three. I actually like Kittle, and I know the Eagles are really good against tight ends this year, but I think he's a nice pivot play in this game because so many people are going to be buying into the volume of McCaffrey. And quite frankly, I was talking with Joe Bartle from RotoWire on FFPC Insider Access last night about this. He's like, look, I think the Niners are one and done. And if that's the case, then you take McCaffrey because he's going to be the highest point scorer and he'll be the correct Niner to roster. I will pivot off that and say you have to be unique somewhere. And if Kittle does somehow have a decent game and the Niners beat the Eagles, which is far from a long shot, I think they could easily do it. Then you're getting a second game out of Kittle, and he could have a potential third game. The Niners weren't that far off from being the 1 seed this year. And Kittle, I think in tight end premium scoring, he represents a really good pivot off of McCaffrey. So I'm team Kittle on this. I do know as I look at my rundown here, he was limited in practice yesterday, and I'll look up at his practice today. But the other thing too, probably no Ricky Pearsall in this game, which should mean more for Kittle.
Okay, I want to go. I understand the reasons why you're not going with McCaffrey, but the reasons to go with him is not because of what he's going to do in the running game, but because of what he's going to do in the pass game. He could maybe get to double-digit catches for a running back, especially for the reason you said, Pearsall's not there. I think if you want to pivot off someone, you can pivot to Jennings, because Jennings is the one guy that can maybe get you 40 points, lose or win. He could have those kind of games. He's had them before. Just a thought.
Without Pearsall, and if it is a negative game script for San Francisco, that would make some sense if you end up going with Jennings. And, quite frankly, what if the Niners lose this game 31-26, Jennings catches a couple of touchdowns? It's certainly not likely to happen, but all of a sudden you are looking really, really good if you ended up playing Jennings over one Christian McCaffrey as well. We'll move on here, Ferrell, to the next point I wanted to bring up tonight, and that is Jaylen Warren from the Pittsburgh Steelers, which I think is another maybe boring team to talk about, but an interesting to talk about, or an important one to talk about, I should say, when it comes to picking or not picking a Steeler for the playoff challenge. Jaylen Warren got in a full practice today. He had an illness. He was wearing gloves and a mask in the locker room, I believe, yesterday and Wednesday. I don't know if he was today. He's been splitting some work with Kenneth Gainwell in the backfield, running up against the Texans defense. I feel like even with Metcalf coming back after his 2-game suspension, you have Stingley that could be locking him up. And then and a guy who, by the way, doesn't really get great separation anyway, does DK Metcalf. And then you have Kenneth Gainwell, who's been catching all these passes, Ferrell. My concern is not whether Gainwell will be a nice 1-week play here in this challenge. My concern is a lot of people will be soft fading the Pittsburgh Steelers and not playing the defense, not playing Boswell, but actually playing Gainwell, because he could have one of these games where Rodgers dumps it off or Gainwell's heavily involved in the passing game plan anyway, and he ends up putting up 15, 20 points. I think that I would, if I'm filling out 10 of these things and I'm choosing I'll put it this way. If I am filling out 10 lineups with the playoff challenge and all 10 of them are including Steelers, God, I think Gainwell's my choice probably 7 or 8 times.
I do too. He's the most prolific option player in this. Despite his ups and downs in the season, he is still consistently called upon. They have expectations for this player, so I like what you're thinking, Balky. What about their opposition?
Well, okay. So initially, when I was thinking about this, I said it's got to be Barkley. Or not Barkley. It's
not Barkley. It's Houston.
Now that would make the Texans a pretty dangerous team if they had Saquon Barkley. Initially, when I was thinking about this, I mentioned what Nelson Sousa said on the Fantasy Empire podcast about Kaimi Fairbairn. Initially, I was like, well, it's got to be Nico Collins, right? But at the same time, this is the lowest total game of the weekend, 38.5. So it's actually fallen a point. You're looking at the Texans, a 3-point favorite. So I don't know how much Collins is involved. And then if the Texans end up winning this game, they would probably be going to Denver. That's not a great matchup either. I mean, you could make a case that there's a soft fade here or a complete fade. And the only other one I would consider here is probably Dalton Schultz.
Throughout the year, Balky, we have always said, and you coined the phrase, and you should have licensing on it. Think long, think wrong.
Think wrong, yeah.
But you've obviously thought long about this, and I can tell you, I think you could flip the script for the proverbial championship here in our playoff challenges, because Bucky, your thinking is right on par. You are so on fire tonight, man. Just listening to you is like a symphony of fantasy football expertise, and I'm just honored to be here, man. I'm so glad so are the guys in the chat room. I'm just so glad that my computer unfroze.
Well, I'm thrilled for that too. Yeah. Yes, Ferrell Elliott, KFFSC commissioner and Balky hype man. I really that's good stuff from you.
You haven't asked me who my favorite team in the playoffs is.
Who is it now? When you say favorite team, is this the team that you are rooting for? Or
yes.
Is this okay, go ahead.
Carolina Panthers.
Now, Ferrell, I have to say that if this is your favorite team, man, I don't know how much you're going to enjoy the playoffs.
I just really want to get out to San Francisco and walk down Media Row and see them all interviewing Xavier Legette, because I got to get him talking more about being a wide receiver, and the national press can handle Xavier, but I think about the California press out there, which they would be rampantly infused throughout the room, and they're going to be saying, "Well, what did he say?" It's just that's really my Super Bowl dream right there.
Well, I'll tell you this. There is a guy that we're going to welcome on right now who actually speaks a little bit more clear than Xavier Legette. I know it's crazy. This guy came this close to the mountaintop last year in the world famous playoff challenge. He ultimately settled for 5th place overall in the competition, paid him out just a shade under $20,000. He's here tonight to discuss how he got so close last year and his plans to complete the journey and bring home that $500,000 this year. Please welcome onto the show, Mr. Steve Yerger. Steve, welcome in tonight. Thanks so much for joining us, man.
There he is.
Thanks for having me. A great honor to be here. It was quite a journey last year, and I'd like to take it a little farther.
Yes, that's the plan. That's the plan. We will get into. I already teased at the top of the show that you and Michael Nazarick are co-workers. So I want you to talk a little bit about that. What else are you doing to occupy your time when you are not hanging around the top of the leaderboard of the playoff challenge?
Well, I'm an accountant by trade, Penn State here. I work for the Pennsylvania Insurance Department. I know combine insurance and accounting together. I mean, it's like Mardi Gras.
That against you, I promise.
Yeah, I've worked with Mike Nazarick at ffmastermind.com since 2008. I've been his IDP specialist. That's my jam. I've done IDP leagues since 2002. Most of the leagues I compete in are IDP, other than what I do here at FFPC.
Ferrell, leave it to an IDP guy to figure out all the ins and outs of winning the playoff challenge. This is what it takes.
I think that ties together beautifully. I think it really ties together beautifully. But you've got other success to tell us about, despite your impending success, and you are known by the company you keep. I keep company with Balky. It doesn't get much better than that. And the guys that are in the chat room. And you do remind me of my college professor in political science back in my days at Murray State, Dr. Garfield, who graced my my infrequent class attendance with a gentleman's C. So I already like you. So tell me about what you were doing to try to lock up that $500,000 grand prize this year. Tell me how difficult it was. Tell me the sweat. Tell me what you went through.
What I went through last year, it was brutal. The tight end position, I just went into deep dive after deep dive on the tight end position. I couldn't find a tight end that I wanted to play. I know I was watching earlier this week, the one guy said he had a team with 5 tight ends last year. And I like that strategy from a differentiation standpoint, but not last year. And well, not this year either. I'm struggling with the same thing this year. It's a really, normally it's a great position in these type of leagues because of the premium scoring with 1.5 points. But it's tough. It's really tough. And my decision ultimately cost me. It was Friday night before the game started last year, and I changed my lineup just because of the tight end position. And I said, no, I don't really like that, but I'm going to sleep on it. And I woke up the next morning and changed it back. If I had left it the way I changed it, I would have been the winner.
Wow. So, Balky, what did he do? He thought long and he thought
wrong. Yep.
Yeah. And that was between, I ended up going with Zach Ertz, and I should have gone with TJ Hawkinson, and I would have swapped Terry McLaurin for Justin Jefferson. And the reason I made that decision was because of the way I saw the playoffs going. I thought Minnesota was going to win, and over multiple games, Jefferson would win out. And I thought Washington was going to lose, and in a one-game scenario, Ertz might be better. And that both those games went the opposite direction. That's why, figuring out your bracket is really one of the
Balky, we have a rookie guest commenter in the chat, which I think deserves to be posted in big letters. Go right ahead there.
Oh, yeah, my brother's watching. All right.
How are you, Matt?
We got Steve Yerger's brother, Matt Yerger, watching on Facebook tonight. And he writes, Steve is just lucky my wife won't let me play, or he wouldn't even finish ahead of his build. And I have to ask you, Steve, I mean, did you – because I didn't break this down. Did you, during the Super Bowl last year, did you still have a shot at winning the whole thing, or did you know you couldn't win the 5?
I knew I couldn't. I was in 61st place heading into the Super Bowl. And it was close enough that it's my nature. I went and looked at the 60 teams ahead of me and found there were 4 teams ahead of me with the same 2 guys left that there was no way I was going to be able to catch. So I knew 5th place was my ultimate goal. And, it was good to get there. It really was. I owe it all to Xavier Worthy. I mean, he was he was a difference maker for me. And then, when I started my lineup, I had Travis Kelce, and like I said, I just didn't want to do that. I wanted to go with Worthy, and that's why I spent so much time on tight ends last year.
Yeah. I mean, they are important for sure to try to hammer this out too. I want to ask you about your not strategy, but the way that you structure this. I always ask people this. I think I mostly get the same answer, so maybe I should stop asking the question. But Steve, when it comes to getting your playoff challenge together, do you fill out a playoff bracket first and then base your lineup off that bracket?
I do. And, I will, vary it as I go. But yeah, I mean, that's, to me, you have to have a good idea or else you're just throwing darts. I mean,
right.
And the thing is too, though, it's a little bit easier with this new format because you got to realize in that first round, even if it works out perfectly, you're still going to lose 2 of your flex players, 2 of your position players. So that kind of gives you a little bit of a forgiveness in some of your picks. Sometimes it gives you a little bit more comfort. I think I have done better in the last 5 years since the format has switched.
Well, that's great.
But yeah, that's definitely the way to start.
I'm glad to know that someone can judge success in these formats. I have experienced very, very little. I came on the show thinking I had some answers. Balky started asking questions. I have no answers. So we'll turn to you for some answers. I think these matchups are kind of tough. I think the matchup that I like the best for scoring is Chicago and Green Bay. Secondly, yes, I like Philadelphia and the 49ers. We've already talked about that. What is your toughest game to figure out just in this weekend?
For me, the toughest is in the AFC, and it's Buffalo and Jacksonville.
In Jacksonville.
In Jacksonville. If it were in Buffalo, I think I'd have a different feel for that game. I do think Jacksonville's going to win, but I think that's going to be a very offensive game. But it wouldn't surprise me. Buffalo has a lot more playoff experience. And everybody's saying, this is Josh Allen's year. This is Josh Allen's year. He could work his magic too. Overall, I mean, Jacksonville just looks so good lately.
But as our frequent guest to the show, Adam Hahn, points out in the commentary, it doesn't seem to be magic in the playoffs. And although he has 10 playoff wins, he's the only quarterback with 10 playoff wins that doesn't have a Super Bowl win. Isn't that an amazing stat? I guess that has to do with the expansion of the playoffs.
And that's one thing this year. There are only 6 quarterbacks with more than 1 playoff win in this playoff. A lot of inexperience, right? It just adds to the craziness of this year. I mean, this is really, the 1 seeds are a little bit lighter than what you normally see in a 1 seed. And
yes, sir.
Yeah, it's a different type of year for predictions.
Yes, sir.
Who do you have, just curiously, for when you filled out your bracket for your lineup? Who do you have playing in the Super Bowl this year, Steve?
I went with Seattle, New England. A lot of inexperience there, but like I said, there's inexperience all around. They're well-rounded. Especially with New England, I like the way their path looks. They might be able to avoid, if Buffalo would happen to beat Jacksonville, they could avoid Jacksonville, but they're going to get Jacksonville in a northern game. Who knows what the weather's going to be like? So I think that makes that game easier for them if they do get Jacksonville. And, if Denver is waiting for them in the final, I'm just not impressed with Denver overall. They might be more a year away, from being more of a dominant team in the playoff situation.
Who has a bye in the AFC?
It is Denver.
Oh, I just want to throw that out there for you, Eric.
Yeah, I know.
They earned that. It was not a gift.
And that is one of my other strategies that I've done since this format has changed is I try not to pick a quarterback from one of the bye week teams, and that's easier this year. That those aren't the stronger quarterbacks in play, but I like the thought of having a quarterback available, every week of the contest. So I do try and pick the best week one quarterback that I think can go all the way to the Super Bowl. That's just always been something I focused on.
And to your point, and I think this is what you were just basically saying, the bye week quarterbacks this year, Sam Darnold, Bo Nix, not exactly the most attractive options.
Right. Yeah, it's easy to fade them this year. Yeah, I'm sure if I had multiple lineups, I'm kind of a one lineup guy. I've done 3 or 4 lineups at most. Last year was a single lineup, but if I was doing multiple lineups, yeah, I'd love to take a chance on one of those quarterbacks, or there's a lot of different quarterbacks I'd like to take a chance on. But
and I think like the other thing too with Darnold, taking a chance on him, there's going to be so much Smith and Jigba.
Yeah, I can't even imagine who else you would go with.
No,
if it's not JSN, it's going to be Darnold for me. I mean, flip a coin on the 2 running backs, and there's really nobody else that in the passing game stands out.
Do you, Steve, think about the 1 seeds this year, and the people I've been talking to over the last few days? I get the impression that people are very nervous, more so than the normal, that both of these 1 seeds could be one and done this year, because it's a very flat competition. The line separating the 1 seeds from the 2 to the 3 to the 4 to the 5, quite frankly, it's not that big. And because we don't have, Smith and Jigba is probably the only really good option combined from those 2 1 seeds. How likely do you think that both Denver and Seattle, one or the other or both, could be eliminated in their first game? And you already mentioned how you like to have a quarterback for 4 weeks. How much does that change the way that you roster the players from those teams even more, knowing that they aren't as dominant as 1 seeds we've seen in the past?
Yeah, and that makes it tough. And that was what was always tougher before, when there were 4 bye week teams that you just didn't know how the matchups were going to come out for them. There was a lot more up in the air. Denver, in the comments, they're very beatable, and they are. The one thing I look at, they're going to face somebody from 4 on down. And I think if they had to face, Jacksonville or New England in that first game, they would definitely be going down. The AFC is a little bit weaker in the 4 through 7, I think, than the NFC this year. Whoever comes out of that Pittsburgh-Houston game, they're decent teams. Either one of them could take Denver down, but I still think I would favor Denver in those matchups. I have Denver winning and going to the championship and then losing to New England. But I think it could happen. Interestingly enough, in the NFC, if Seattle has to play the Rams first, I would bet on the Rams, but if they meet in the final, I would bet on Seattle. And I don't know why, but I feel different about that matchup if it's in the championship game or if it's in the divisional round.
I get where you're coming from.
If the Rams are coming off a big win over the Eagles, I don't know if you can see my Eagles shirt. I'm a big Eagles fan.
That's right. Go Birds.
And I was jumping up and cheering when Worthy was scoring last year in the Super Bowl. It sure was. I said, he was my difference maker. But
people are going to be jumping up and cheering in Duval County. That's a big deal. This is their sort of coming out party. I
love this matchup too, just because they're both small market teams, and you look at the Bills Mafia and the Duval crowd, and there's a lot of similarities there.
If you're playing multiple teams, if you take an Allen and Lawrence, one of those quarterbacks is going to survive and move on. So so if we take Lawrence out of the equation, I want you to come in with as many Jacksonville potentials playing starts as you can. Who you like the best? I don't need volume. I just need clarity, exclusivity. I don't care. You can give me as many as you wanted that you believe in, but I'm curious if your 1 and 2 match up with mine.
Well, after Lawrence, and I'm going to qualify this. I don't think I've ever had this guy on any fantasy team ever. And it doesn't mean I don't like him. I'm always just about half around behind everybody. And that would be Mr. Travis Etienne. Mm-hmm. I've never been a huge fan, but like I said, I admire his talent. But just this year, he's been a different player. And I just get the feeling people are going to devalue him a little bit. You look at his, after his bye week, he had one bad outing. And he's not crucial in the passing game, but he's not non-existent as well. Mm-hmm. So he's a guy I'm going to have trouble not playing. And then if you're going to look, I mean, they have so many good options in the passing game, and that's what makes Lawrence so. It reminds me of the days of Tom Brady before Randy Moss. If you wanted to play anybody from that offense, it was obviously Brady because who knew what receiver you were going to throw to. But for me, I'm going to go with my 2 Penn State guys at Brenton Strange at tight end, and then Parker Washington.
There you are. There you are. There's
my
number 2 guy. There's my number 2 guy.
You look at Parker's targets over the last month or so. It's pretty impressive. The last week 16 and 17 had 10 targets both games, over 100 yards. He could be very undervalued too. He could be one of those players like Worthy was for me last year, where just not a big percentage of ownership. I mean, with Worthy at all, Kelsey mostly last year, a little bit.
A very small percentage of ownership. Where's your Jacoby Myers fall in?
I would, Jacoby Myers, he's a solid player, and he's been great for Jacksonville since he's been there. He's never been a big touchdown guy, so that always worried me with him. And I think if I was going to pick between him and Thomas, I would go with the other way because of the more TD potential. Mm-hmm. That's just all 3 of those wide receivers, you could make an argument for any of them, but for me, out of those 3, Parker Washington would be on top.
And see, Bonky, I thought I was coming in with a bit of a sleeper on Parker Washington, and all the sharps from Stephen G. and the Fantasy Sopranos and the very active Adam Hahn tonight. All the guys are jumping in on the Parker Washington, claiming he's the number 1 guy, and he may well be, much like you claimed that Pierce is the number 1 receiver now in the Colts, has supplanted Pittman. I got it in, Bonky, 10:38.
No, I didn't think it was going to happen with them.
Yeah, I figured out a way to get it in. That's good stuff.
I underestimated you once again. The other great thing about Parker Washington, as Steve and Adam are pointing out, and Steve Yerger pointed out, I mean, not only is he their number 1 receiver, de facto number 1 receiver, he's returning punts. I mean, it's action scoring in the FFPC. He has scored more than 1 special teams touchdown this year. That could be a big factor as well. Now you can't get the stack with Jacksonville and Parker Washington in this particular competition.
Yeah, right.
Parker Washington, man, if he returns a punt, that's going to count for you as well. So that's another attractive part of utilizing Washington. I think for a lot of
to do that.
There you go. I got to get my oinker on as well. So the other thing that and here's my segue. If you believe that Jacksonville is getting to the bowl, I think Trevor Lawrence would be a very obvious pick, right?
Yeah.
In the NFC, there's going to be a lot of people who believe the Rams get to the big game. And I think history and math would tell you that Stafford would be the play if you believe the Rams are getting to that big game. However, there's been multiple times, not only this year, but over the course of the time when these guys have been teammates with the Rams, that Puka Nacua has actually outscored Matthew Stafford. So the question here, Steve, is even if someone believes the Rams are making it and going all the way, is Puka Nacua actually the smarter choice at quarterback or at wide receiver rather than using Stafford as your quarterback? Because the other thing, too, is it also frees up your quarterback position to utilize on your AFC team as well. Your thoughts on that?
Well, right. And that's what I was going to say. In a standalone basis, I could still make the argument for Puka. But considering the fact that it does free up that quarterback position for elsewhere, I mean, yeah, I think it's hard to go Stafford over Puka. I mean, it would definitely differentiate you from the crowd. But I mean, Stafford will have decent ownership, and I can see them having a solid chance of making it to the Super Bowl and getting those 4 games for Stafford. But I still think the better option. I mean, because Stafford doesn't give you the running option that some of the other quarterbacks do. The one thing you're going to get from him that you wouldn't get from Puka is the Devontae connection. Because Devontae does kind of hog some of the touchdowns. But I'm just not. Is his injury going to hold up throughout if they go that many games in the playoffs? He hasn't been really healthy down the stretch. And he's getting older, so that would kind of worry me a little bit about Stafford too. That maybe the touchdowns will go to Puka because Adams isn't quite 100%.
For this contest, I think it should be expressed that Puka advances to the Super Bowl and not the Rams. I think that's how it's going to. It's going to come down. It's going to be so much Puka. So I
faded Puka last year. It was easier to do last year. But I thought the Rams were going to lose.
It's very, very hard to fade him. The fantasy meatball tonight, Balky, coming in very, very strong in the comments. And Meatball owes me a call, by the way. I just want to call him out on that. But I got to call you out on this, champ. Tell me besides Puka, who is over-owned? So like we just gave Washington a jump down in Jacksonville. He's gonna kick up now for all the listeners to the show. Tell me somebody that it's just too much of this guy in a contest. And if you've got this contest, if you've got this player, he's maybe going to weigh down your lineup more than move you through the crowd to get you into the top numbers.
Yeah, well, when I think of that, I'm going to think of the one and done guys. But that was a hard, because if it's going to weigh you down throughout, there's going to be somebody that maybe isn't performing, but their teams are winning.
Let me phrase it like this then, and I don't want to interrupt you, but
I could go both ways because I have one player for each of those.
Okay, let's do it.
If Denver's, even if Denver's winning and doing well, I would fade Cortland Sutton. I think this year there's too many times. I think there's 4 times this year he only had 1 catch, so he can disappear too easily in a 1-game setting. And but if you're talking somebody that I think is going to be one and done, I'm going to go with Christian McCaffrey, because you look at the rankings, and everybody still has McCaffrey ranked, pretty high up in playoff rankings. And I know the Eagles, I don't think they have the juice this year, as much as I'd love them to defend. But I don't think San Fran, I mean, they just looked really, really bad last week. Now they have to fly across country. I just don't see any way.
Backup linebackers.
And I think Eagles get up big early, and he's still going to be active in the passing game. He'll get his points, and he could be a decent one and done score. Like I said, you're going to lose 2 of your prime players in week 1 regardless. But I just think he's an easy fade to differentiate yourself, because he will still get heavy ownership.
So just real quick, Ferrell, just to piggyback on this, we were talking about the Niners earlier, and I was talking about fading McCaffrey in favor of Kittle. Ferrell brought up Jawan Jennings as well as a nice pivot on San Francisco. Which way, if you are picking a Niner, which way are you going if you're not going McCaffrey?
Originally, I might have said Kittle, and I had this discussion with Mike Nazarek, and he was talking up Jennings, and the Eagles are really good against the tight end.
Yep.
So, in a one-game setting, I think I might take my chance on Jennings in that scenario.
It could be very fruitful if the Niners are one and done and Jennings ends up having like this big second half where they're trying to keep pace. There's certainly something to be said for that. I want to get to a couple of emails that came in for you, Steve. The first one is from Rich in Stockton, California. What's up, Steve? Are you fading the Packers in the challenge this season? That is from Rich in Stockton, California. Thank you so much, Rich. We have not talked about Green Bay at all. They are the rare 7 seed that is a road favorite at Soldier Field.
I did look at that. They are favored 1.5, I think, right now.
Right, yeah, 1.5. What are your thoughts on fading them? And if you're not fading them, what Packer are you looking at here, Steve?
I am not fading them. I think they're going to win, so I definitely don't want to fade them. And this is just a personal favorite of mine. I like Christian Watson. I like what he brings to that offense. Jacobs is too banged up right now. He's just not himself. I mean, he's still going to get his, but they're giving him a lot more breaks on the sideline throughout the game, keeping him fresh more. So he's not getting quite the volume. They're really using Wilson, pretty heavily. So for me, I can't see anyone else other than Christian Watson that I want to go with that team. He has a capability of just really big outings.
The only thing I'll bring up, and I'm with you, by the way, when I filled out my playoff challenge on the stream last night, I had Watson as my Packer. I will bring up that there is probably going to be snow tomorrow night in Chicago, and you're also looking at winds of upwards of 15 to 20 miles an hour as well. So there's something to be said for that. If I'm looking at this right, God, is my Google weather? No, that's right. Okay. 10 to 15 miles an hour rather than 15 to 20. Maybe that's not a big deal. Maybe it's a deal. I'm not sure, but that's something to keep in mind as well. However, to your point, the Bears can be beaten deep, and Watson definitely is a field flipper. And if Jacobs is going to be the guy for the Packers, it's going to take a lot of volume. Won't take a whole lot of volume with Christian Watson. He could be the guy in 1 or 2 plays on this offense in this game.
3 for 87 and a touchdown or something like that. That's a really nice game.
3 touchdowns.
I love a snow game for the offense. Offense knows where they're going. Defense does.
Wind will affect it more than the snow would, I think.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. And you take the Bears.
The wind stays, reasonable.
There's some nice things to like about the Bears defense if you only look at turnovers. They generate turnovers. They fumble. They intercept. They do all that. They don't do anything else. And then, the Bears with the number 3 rushing attack. It's hard to beat. It's Balky. You like to talk about the boys in the desert sometime. What's the over under on this game? Is it over 50
on the Packers Bears?
Yes, sir.
No, 44.5.
Yeah, I see this game is 50 points or more. So.
I agree with you there, which is why I didn't want to fade NB from either side of this.
This
is one of those games where you want somebody coming out the other end.
And I love what you say about Watson because all summer, spring and summer, we talk to the pros that come on here and they're talking about all these other Packer players. And I say to Balky, Balky, why don't you just talk about Watson? Nobody want to talk about Watson. Why didn't we talk about Watson back then, Balky?
My thing with Packers pass catchers, and to a certain degree it still is, but to a lesser degree, they don't have a target hog that needs to be fed. They don't have a number 1 wide receiver. I think Matt LaFleur likes it that way. Certainly the GM Brian Gutekunst must like it that way. And now with Tucker Kraft going down, there is more of an onus on Christian Watson to make plays. And I think Jordan Love is making sure he's taking advantage of getting the ball to Watson. By the way, no Dontavian Wicks in this game as well, as he is out. So that's going to be one less wide receiver in the field. Probably going to be a few more targets for Watson in this game as a result as well. So
I will say, Ferrell mentioned about the Bears and their turnovers. Packers are one of the best teams at not giving the ball up. So, it's going to be strength versus strength.
Yeah.
So that's another thing.
I really think with the Bears creating turnovers, that teams have such a success against them, they get a little sloppy. And, that's why I think they get so many turnovers. I haven't seen great athleticism on the Bears defense, but I have seen, hey, maybe they just got defensive backs that can catch the ball. That alone is a rarity.
Let me ask you this, guys. When you talk about the Packers turning the ball over, don't look real quick. First number that pops in your head. How many interceptions did Jordan Love throw this year?
6, 7.
6, 7? 6, 7?
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Ferrell, your guess?
I'm saying single digits, yeah.
The gentleman from Penn State, or the Penn State fan, Steve Yerger, got it right on the head. It is 6 interceptions this year. I was listening to a podcast, and I think it was Brett Whitefield from Fantasy Points. I could be wrong on this. I think it was Brett who said, it seems like he threw 20, because when he throws an interception, boy, they are big and bad.
Yeah, that is true.
Horrible throws, affecting the outcomes of games, putting his team in it. But he only threw 6 of them. So, and the Bears, obviously, for whatever reason, they're able to turn the ball over quite a bit. Well, that's going to be a fun game on Saturday night, regardless.
Hey, Balky, throw the meatballs comment up.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, here we go. Farrell is trying to start crap with Balky. Welcome to
meatball. That crap started 20 years ago.
I was just going to say the same thing. There's no starting here. This has been going on for quite a while, 2 decades. One more email here for you, Steve. Mike in Newark. Do you like RJ Harvey or Cortland Sutton better to win the 500K? Good luck in the challenge. Thanks for the email, Mike in Newark. What do you think there between those 2 Broncos? Or do you have a wild card? We'll do it Family Feud style. Where is it Harvey? Is it Sutton? Or you want to go off on your own with your own Bronco?
I have Harvey in my lineup. I think it's Harvey. Like I said, Sutton's too up and down. Mims has kind of faded away, but Franklin's always there to steal some targets, and he could have a big game, then disappear the next game. But I think Harvey, people are going to be scared off because they think the other running back's coming back. I don't think he's coming back.
Yeah. Well, and I'll say this too. Even if he does, I think the report was AFC Championship.
Right. Yeah, right. That's what I heard as well.
And think about all the time that J.K. Dobbins has missed. I don't know what kind of football shape he's going to be in. I don't think he's going to be very impactful.
And all the injuries he's had throughout his career. I mean, how many times has he let people down? I mean,
right.
Fantasy-wise for your team. So,
maybe
he doesn't scare me away from Harvey at all.
He can come back in the AFC Championship to let your fantasy team down one more time.
Right.
with Dobbins.
Ferrell,
yes, yeah. Ferrell, final question from you.
And you guys might have been on the precipice of teasing my question and letting the proverbial cat from the bag. But nevertheless, I will persevere with this question. The world famous Fantasy Football Players Championship Playoff Challenges is a fantastic way to end our season and to start our new year in 2026. And I must ask you, give me one player that must be in your lineup to deliver success. And give me that player that is going to be the proverbial disappointment that wrecks the lineup and makes everyone regret that they ever thought of this player. Those are the 2 charges we need from you, my friend.
I am going to go with my quarterback this year, and that's Drake May. To me, he's going to be a difference maker. I have them going to the Super Bowl.
Okay.
So that it could. I mean, for me, last year was Josh Allen. I felt the same way about Allen last year, and it didn't quite work out that way. But with his running ability, and to me, there's nobody else that really stands out to take from New England. I mean, you could make an argument for either running back. You could make a good argument for Diggs. want to go really out there with Henry, okay. Tight end is a tough position. But for me, I think Drake May is going to be a difference maker. And then I already talked about fading.
So you've given us our difference maker. Give us our disaster maker. And if you've already talked to him, you can't use him. You got to be.
Well, yeah, that's right. I already used McCaffrey.
Steve, let me frame the question this way too. If you had let's say you had 20 lineups, okay, the one player that people will roster that you would not have on any of your 20 lineups.
Right.
Definitely Ramondre Stevenson would be one because I like Henderson better. That one seems weak, though. I'm trying to think of a better one.
While you think about it, I will say there is, I don't want to say a groundswell, but there are a lot of people, I shouldn't say a lot, a significant number of people that believe that Stevenson might actually be the play for a couple of reasons. Number one, the explosive plays slow down in the postseason, usually, not always, but usually. Stevenson is the grinder. Stevenson is the veteran. Stevenson is the more trusted guy. And think about how long it took Vrabel and McDaniels to give finally unleash TreVeyon Henderson. Are they going to be willing to do that right away, week one of the playoffs? Potentially not. So you can tell yourself a story why people will tell themselves a story, rightly or wrongly, of why they're going to use Stevenson in their lineup. So I don't think it's as soft as an answer as you might think it is.
Yeah. And he's great, those inside the 5 touchdowns.
Yeah.
But I'm counting on my quarterback to steal those.
Stevenson is not enough, and he takes all the potential away from Henderson.
Yeah. So much frustration with Vrabel this year. Like, what, unleash this kid, and especially when Stevenson had some early fumbles, that brought that problem back to the forefront. What he had 2 in the first 5 weeks, I think. He'd been better since. But yeah, it's come on, what's going on here? Why is Henderson not getting used more? It was frustrating as a big Henderson owner. Some of my teams.
Yeah, it stunk in the regular season because Henderson came on at the end of the year, right when your team has been eliminated, and
right, yeah, right, or it isn't really going to help you anymore.
Yeah. Well, listen, Steve, I think you've helped a lot of people formulate some lineups tonight. You might have done yourself a disservice because I think you were too helpful, and now you've made it that much harder for you to get from 5th place last year to 1st place this year.
Yeah, now I got to go tweak my lineups a little bit after.
Right. Now you got to go change them to all the players you didn't talk about tonight. But listen, man, this is a lot of fun. Congratulations on the success last year. Best of luck to you in the challenge this year. Keep up all the great work for ffmastermind.com, writing all that great IDP content. And we will talk with you again soon. Enjoy the NFL postseason, my friend.
Thank you.
Thank you, my friend.
Absolutely. That is Steve Yerger, the 5th place finisher in the FFPC playoff challenge from last year. Nearly a $20K winner, Ferrell. And he spilled his guts tonight, which was great.
He did.
On how to formulate these lineups. Okay.
A real gentleman. He loves those Nittany Lions, too.
He does. Yeah. Shout out Penn State. Shout out Adam Levitan, which I think I'm contractually obligated to say after you say shout out Penn State. You have to shout out.
You have been really dropping the names tonight.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I am a name dropper.
You live in such, you travel in such high circles. It's really cool.
Only in Louisville do I travel in high circles, Ferrell. Only in
you're beloved most here, but you travel in high circles everywhere.
Speaking of Louisville, I have to talk with you off air because not a lot of people care about this. Quarterback for Louisville, former quarterback for Louisville, has actually joined the Wisconsin Badgers. I need to talk to you about him.
What is his name?
I'm going to look it up right now.
Let's look it up.
Yeah. It is a guy I thought we had talked about before. Deuce Adams.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So he is now going to be probably the backup to Colton Joseph, who's coming over from Old Dominion. So and knowing that the last 3 quarterbacks the Badgers have gotten in the transfer portal all suffered season-ending injuries in the first or second season, Deuce Adams is going to get a lot of playing time from Wisconsin this year.
And Deuce needed to get out of town because the longevity amongst quarterbacks at the University of Louisville is not necessarily the way they go.
Yeah, that's true.
They really enjoy and manage and do a great job with the portal quarterbacks, and that's what they believe in. So
yes, we have to do a good job with answering these emails.
Okay.
Tonight. I'll go to Nate in Houston's first. He writes,
"What's Nate doing?"
Nate wants to know if the Pats are for real. He wants.
Well, sure they are.
You believe they are? Okay.
Well, sure they are.
We just had a guest on in Steve Yerger who said Drake May is his quarterback. Yeah. He's projecting a New England Seattle Super Bowl. You said earlier, and I agree with you. You can only play the teams that are on your schedule. But you've seen enough from this team to believe that they are built to get to the big game.
They've got a quarterback that makes good decisions. They've got a coach with a defensive mentality that has studied and learned the game at a lot of different levels. They have some perfect things coming together. They've got experience at running back. They've got youth and explosive running backs. They've got a tight end that's a vet. They've got a lot of things that they do right. And sure, they're for real.
Jim in Mountain View, Wyoming. How do I play the Bears in the playoff challenge? Enjoy the postseason. Thank you, Jim in Wyoming. I have been saying all week that I think my bear is going to be, or if I was playing in this, obviously I want to make that absolutely clear. Yeah. I'm not playing in this. If I was going to play in it, my bear would have been Colston Loveland or Luther Burden, right? And then Joe Bartle from RotoWire kind of talked me into DeAndre Swift last night. And if you look at the things are trending in that backfield, Ferrell, it almost seems like Swift is back to being a true blue RB1. And maybe he's the right play in a game that should be a knockdown, drag it out, slobber knocker. And the Bears' rush offense has been pretty darn good over the last month or two. So maybe it is Swift. Maybe that's the way you handle the Bears.
Yeah, maybe it is. Number 3 rushing offense in all of football, and he is the guy. And you're trying to play a tight end, which still has to deal with the other tight end. So, what are we thinking about here, Balky? Let's go ahead. I know there's 2 good running backs there, but let's go ahead and let Swift catch passes, run the ball. He's your guy in Chicago. What a fantastic matchup this is. This is the most fascinating game to watch for the weekend.
I will say, yeah, and it should be. I will say that we don't have a super rich tight end class in this year's playoff challenge. I think I said there was 2 of them. Steve G last night on the show, and somebody else, I can't remember who was watching, and said that
Steve was a guest on the show.
No. Steve was in the chat room. He was in the chat room. But he said Dalton Schultz and Brenton Strange, and I think I have to add those on as well. So maybe this tight end, the tight end group goes 4 deep rather than 2 deep in this format. And listen, Harshal Sheth, who I was talking to on Tuesday night on the Road of His High Stakes Lowdown, he said, and Steve referenced that 5 tight ends in one of his lineups. I have never seen a 5 tight end or a 4 tight end lineup win this. I could be wrong. I've maybe seen a 3 tight end win it once, but usually it seems like 2 tight ends is the magic number for this. And it makes sense for Loveland and Kittle. Although I might be backing off Kittle now, the way you guys are talking me into Jennings.
Yeah, Kittle and Loveland. Back off Loveland too.
Okay, I'll back off Loveland. Let's go to the Eagles. Norm in New York. Saquon Barkley or A.J. Brown for my Eagle. I know that there's certain people that would pivot off both of them and say Devonta Smith. I can't remember. Were you talking about Goddard before? I don't like Goddard, but it seems like you think that there's a chance you could use Goddard. What about for Philly? Who's your favorite Eagle?
Barkley. I believe he can recapture what he didn't quite capture during the season and run this team through the playoffs. However, I do like the quarterback. I like the quarterback a great deal. I like it, especially in this matchup where the defense is giving up double-digit passing touchdowns. I think let's get off to a great start with an MVP type quarterback who gets to play in the opening round. I love that.
I think that in regards to the Eagles, well, I mean, I don't know. the Niners defense, everybody says it's so bad, and it is. I mean, I just think they're just super injured right now.
Well, they lost their two linebackers, Bethune and Warner.
Yeah.
How do you play without those two guys?
Yeah, and Warner was just a madman out there, both pass defense and rush defense. So
can't play without those.
Yeah, maybe it is a Barkley game where they just they run, and Kevin Patullo loves to run the ball anyway. So maybe it'll just be Barkley, and then again more Barkley, and then the Eagles win, and you get at least another game out of them as well. Okay, final email tonight, I believe. Yeah, Chuck in Chicago. Happy playoffs. Is Dalton Kincaid the Buffalo pivot? Thanks again. That is Chuck in Chicago. Thank you, Chuck. I would imagine that James Cook and Josh Allen will be the most owned Buffalo Bills. In fact, I think you can make the case that James Cook is going to be more owned than Josh Allen. But Ferrell, if you want to stay away from both of them, I think it's Kincaid. I don't trust anybody else on that team unless you're going to soft fade them and use their defense, which I don't know why you would against Jacksonville. They got their third kicker of the year in there. I could be wrong on that too, but I know it's at least their backup.
Too many cooks in the kitchen. Go with Cooks. Go with Cooks as your play here. Yes, Kincaid, but no. Let's stay with Cooks. Let's stay with the guy that's damn near close to winning the AFC rushing title, the league rushing title. Let's go with the guy who quietly put together how many yards, Balky? 1,600 yards.
1,600, yeah.
You know, why go trying? We've already talked about all the tight ends that we love, and Kincaid's name's not there. Why? It's not necessary. Let's go Cook.
Yeah, I don't trust him. He's been way too inconsistent throughout the regular season. Now he's going up against tougher defenses. Adam did say, you can't run on Jacksonville, which is true. I mean, they led the league in rushing yards against per game. I think it was like 85 or something like that. So it may be tough sledding for James Cook. But if the Bills get by the Jags, then all of a sudden you're looking at potentially 2 games from Cook. And if they lose the next game, then it looks like Cook might be the play over Josh Allen at the correct bill. This is just we're galaxy braining this, and we just don't have enough time. But
no one wants to play Xavier Legette but me.
Yeah, well, I'm rooting for the Panthers for your
sake.
Yeah,
but we got to root for those Panthers, baby.
I'm excited to kick off the playoffs tomorrow. The playoff challenge. I'll mention that before we sign off as well. Give you an update on how much time you have to sign up for that. Speaking of signing up, Ferrell, KFFSC.com is where to go for everything that is going on with the Kentucky Fantasy Football State Championship. The Super Bowl party, which is coming up in just under a month. Everything, all the drafts sold out both days, right?
We're a complete sellout a month ahead, Balky. It's a wonderful commentary to our players who wish to come. Some are new players. Steve G's making his first trip. We'll miss Tom Smith, who will not be there in person this year. But the group that is coming is fantastic. The fact that you will be able to be there, that's been the motor behind a lot of people wanting to come and play against Balky. We've opened up 2. They will be available tomorrow. We've opened up 2 leagues, 2 ancillary leagues, which will be linked to earning teams not only in Kentucky, but teams in Las Vegas for the winners here at the FFPC. So it's a great weekend. We're going to make room for you. We're going to make contests for you. Come and be with us for this, the kickoff league of our 25th annual KFFSC.
KFFSC.com is where to go there. Check that out this weekend and register for those leagues. You can also, while you're there, sign up for the Rocky Blyer Super Sunday Sweet 16.
That's right, because the meatball says he waited too long.
Right.
He can also play online, and he can come on down here and be part of the party and play in the ancillary leagues.
So one of those is already up. A couple more will be up tomorrow. KFFSC.com is where to go for that. Ferrell, always a pleasure, my friend. Enjoy Super Wildcard Weekend. Let's do this again next Friday night.
Can't wait, Balky.
You got it. That is the definitive commissioner of fantasy football, one Ferrell Elliott, and that will wrap up tonight's show. I want to thank Steve Yerger, Ferrell, Elliott, the FFPC, Rob, Bryce, and of course, each and every one of you. We will be back 10 p.m. next Friday, 10 p.m. Eastern, for another edition of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour. Other shows that I did this week for the FFPC, in case you missed Tuesday night's RotoViz High Stakes Lowdown, you can check it out on the RotoViz podcast feed, as well as anywhere you get podcasts. The FFPC socials, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube still has it. I talked with 2015, 2016 world famous FFPC Playoff Challenge 6-figure grand prize co-champion Harshal Sheth, who has played this contest. He's actually, if there is one person, probably him and Tejas Badawala, his former co-owner, that's who they won it together. And both those guys have actually come close to winning this contest the second time. So he was a great guest. Really gave me a lot to think about, gave you a lot to think about as well. If you watch that, in case you missed it, check it out before you submit your playoff challenge lineups. Next week, next Tuesday night, will be the season, I think, 10 finale of the RotoViz High Stakes Lowdown at 10 p.m. Eastern time on Tuesday. 10-time FFPC league champ Ken Ford will join me. He finished in the top 50 of the FFPC Divisional Playoff Challenge last year, so we'll talk with him about that, as well as his lineups for the playoff challenge this year. That is the season finale. However, it's not really a season finale because we switch from going weekly on that podcast to going to the first Tuesday of every month until the NFL's playing season starts again. So we'll still have plenty of RotoViz High Stakes Lowdown throughout the spring and summer and early fall for you as well. In case you missed it, watch last night's FFPC Insider Access show on the Better Sports Network. Any of their socials, any of the FFPC socials. It's also anywhere you get podcasts as well. I spoke with RotoWire's Joe Bartle. We each put together a playoff challenge lineup, so you can feel free to dupe us on that. And then next week, we go live again from 7 to 9 next Thursday. Fantasy Pros Pat Fitzmaurice will be my guest co-host for that. That's always a fun time when Pat swings in to do the show. I will mention the world famous FFPC Playoff Challenge one more time. It is live. It closes tomorrow, perhaps maybe even closing earlier. I'm looking at this right now. And this is real-time update, unless you're listening to this or watching this later. That's not real-time. But if you're watching it live right now, we are, as far as capacity goes, 85% full with the $200 playoff challenge. And then with the $35 playoff challenge, we are looking at probably about the same, I would imagine, actually. We are looking at, we're about 87% full on that one. So this is the time when these entries are flying the rest of tonight and tomorrow morning. Just get in now. That's all I'll tell you. Get in now. Worry about setting the lineup sometime early tomorrow afternoon, but just get your entries in so you don't get locked out of this competition. A $200 entry fee gets you eligible for a $500,000 grand prize. $100 entry fee $35 entry fee, beg your pardon, gets you eligible for a $100,000 grand prize. There's no drafts or salary caps. You're picking whatever players you want, just one player per team. So if you want Sam Darnold, you can't have Jackson Smith and Jigba. If you want Bo Nix, you cannot have Cortland Sutton, that kind of thing. Sign up now, myffpc.com, myffpc.com. Remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel, comment on the video, share with your friends, share with your enemies, and get notified each and every time we go live, which will be next Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern, next Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern, and next Friday at 10 p.m. Eastern. Your FFPC NFL Super Wildcard Weekend officially starts now.
This has been another episode of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by myffpc.com. It was broadcast live and was watched around the world. Balky and Ferrell will be back next week with more analysis, more interviews, and more advice from guests much smarter than they are. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk with you again next week.
Sorry, my mic was muted. Once again, if the fantasy season did not go your way, bear in mind, no matter how bad of a year you had in fantasy, you could still win $500,000. Make it a year to remember. myffpc.com, myffpc.com is where to go to play the world famous FFPC Playoff Challenge. May the ball bounce your way. Good luck, everybody. Enjoy the postseason. I'll talk with you again next